Now, by bringing Steve as a defense witness, what are we doing? The whole country is beginning to hear what he's been talking about.
Yes.
Which they didn't know about him, which you couldn't read anything about him.
Yeah.
He's not speaking. All his ideas are going to come out in court.
Yes.
So we use the court as a platform to express people's values.
Yeah.
And at the same time, who's listening to everything? The young activists in Soweto.
And how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay. Now, it's thank you very much for allowing us to come to your house and have a quick chat about this matter. I believe that Black consciousness is something that is in your heart. And maybe you can tell us about who you are first before we even get to...
Right. My name is Sari Bayama. I've been a participant of the Black consciousness movement virtually from its inception.
Okay.
So that is a very, very, very long time ago.
It is, eh?
I began with Black consciousness probably around about 1969.
Okay.
At the time when I was president of my student body at college.
Okay.
The campus I was in was known those days as the Transvaal College of Education.
Okay.
And in the old apartheid days, it was a teacher's college specifically for so-called Indians.
All right.
That's where I came in as SRC president.
Okay.
Now, it was during this period that for us as Black students, there wasn't a single student movement for us.
Oh.
There was, there was more what they used to call the liberal students.
Yeah.
I think called NUSAS, National Union of South African Students.
Yes.
And they were supposed to be spokespeople for all of us Black people.
Okay.
That was what was existing at that time. Earlier on, there must have been some student organizations that were Black orientated, but they were closed down by the apartheid system, there were arrests, etc. So now there was only NUSAS. And I got into this presidency, and I looked at NUSAS, but frankly speaking, I wasn't too happy. You know, I mean, I just didn't feel comfortable.
Yes, yes.
Then came Steve. So, I mean, what happened was, at our college, the guys were asking, should we remain with NUSAS or should we break away?
Okay.
But many students supported NUSAS because the president before me was very pro-NUSAS. And I took over as presidency in my first year.
Okay.
So then we heard, somebody came and said, you know, there's a guy called Steve Biko, and he's trying to establish a student for all Blacks. At that time, we didn't use the term Blacks.
Yeah.
He's trying to establish a student union of all non-whites.
Yeah.
And some people weren't too happy. They said, no, but wouldn't that be racist? Questions were coming in. Because excluding whites, so wouldn't it be racist? That was the argument at that time. So I told the guys, you know what this guy's idea has got, somehow it's appealing to me, it's making sense to me. It's something I would want to get involved in. And told the student body, look, I will try to arrange and meet up with this guy called Steve Biko, trying to run this organization. And then one day I went out to Braamfontein Station, and you won't believe it, that's where I met Steve Biko the first time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, he's Steve, and he came to me, and the first thing he did, he clenched his fist, which wasn't a common thing in those days. Right? But he just clenched his fist, and I looked at it, I didn't clench my fist, automatically we clenched our fists together, you know. I said, okay, Steve Biko, and I heard about you, you studied Variava. The president of the campus.
Yeah.
He says, you've got a long history of causing trouble at school too, because I led the first scholar boycotts in 1967-68 at the high schools here.
Yeah.
You know, so you already heard about me because of my activities then.
Yeah.
So then I told me, look, we'll meet sometime, but we'll talk about this new student body we intend setting up for all non-white students.
Okay. With that, I've got a question before you go far. The fear of using a non-white name, was it because of it sounded like you were exclusive, that's not including whites, or was it a fear that you appear to be moving towards a what can I call it, a more liberative movement that is...
The fear initially was the thing, was the thing that you're excluding some people.
Yeah.
It's like the apartheid government.
Yeah.
You're excluding whites.
Okay.
This was the first fear, and in a word, it
so the first fear was very innocent.
Yeah. Won't it be like what the guy said, apartheid reversed?
Yeah.
That we're doing the same thing what the apartheid government was doing. Okay. This was the fear at that time.
Okay.
Right. So, when I first met Steve, what Steve did is that he organized a thing called a formation school.
Oh, okay.
Now the formation school, he invited all student leaders from all black campuses.
Yes.
My campus, Turfloop, Ungoya, Fort Hare, and there were plenty of campuses. We met at a place called Wilgenspruit.
Okay. Where's Wilgenspruit again?
It's around Roodepoort.
Yes.
It was a beautiful place to have conferences and that.
Yes.
And he planned a 2-day workshop at this place.
Okay.
So now we're all sitting, we got together, we're meeting up all the student leaders from Turfloop, etc., right? So Steve then comes and he says, guys, let's look at ourselves. Who are we? You know, what do we call ourselves?
Yeah.
Are we non-whites? What are we?
Yeah.
So then we look, we're all busy thinking, so Steve goes onto the board and he writes there, non-white.
Okay.
So he then deletes the word white.
Yeah.
He says, what are we left with?
Yeah.
We all look and we just left non.
Yes.
So he says, guys.
Basically, our definition is based on other people,
yes,
not on ourselves.
Yes. So we said non, but what are we?
Yeah.
We are nothing. We are not. If you remove the white from us, we are absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
For us to become a human being, we've got to aspire and live and try to be like the white man. Then only we will regain our humanity.
Yes.
And now we look and we say, oh, that makes sense to us. We are non-being. So then we ask, what do we call ourselves? Because we're all students. And Steve's idea was to unite us. He totally believed in what we call black solidarity.
Yeah.
So he says, now we are going to get together. How do we unite us? We all look, he says, okay, what name will we use? And we're sitting thinking, a lot of words coming around. And somebody said, black. That makes sense. Collectively, we call ourselves black. And then the question comes about that, who do we define and who is black?
Yeah.
So Steve said, we have to, first thing we need in the struggle is unity or solidarity of all the oppressed people.
Yes.
So we will then define black as all people who are politically, socially, and economically discriminated as a group.
Okay.
I said, fine. So that's what we all are. All of us, so-called non-whites, have now transformed towards being black.
Black. Yeah.
But then we said, but just hang on. What about the so-called Indian and African Security Branch Police? They're not part of us.
Okay.
Can we call them black?
Yeah.
What about all these government stooges, the Buthelezis, the Indian J.N. Reddy's, all these guys?
Yeah.
They're aspiring towards being like the party government. So guys said, no, they are non-whites. We are black. So we distinguish between being black and being a non-white. So all sellouts were referred to as non-whites. And this is what blacks was. But then we went another step. We said, blackness doesn't necessarily have to be your skin color. Blackness should be seen as an attitude of buying. It should be seen as a way of life. So by defining yourself as black, you are already on your first step towards what we call psychological liberation. Because the most important thing what Bhikkhu told us in liberation, the first and the most important thing is to see yourself as self-defined.
Yes.
And not defined by the other.
That's correct.
Because the other has been defining us for too long. Yes. For too long you were a kafir, for too long you were a coolie, for too long you were a bushi, or for too long you were a good kafir, a good coolie, or a bushi. This was what he said, right, we are now totally self-defined. Then I remember asking Steve the question, but Steve, there's another problem there. I go to a campus which is for Indians only.
Yeah.
What do I do in that instance?
Still separated.
Yeah.
Because it's Indian.
Still Indians. Africans can go to Africans, colors to colors. So I said, we're defining ourselves as black now. So what do I do in this?
Yeah.
And Steve came. He said, you can do plenty. Conscientize your student body. Conscientize isn't speaking down to the people.
Yeah.
It is not pushing propaganda to the people. Conscientize means you don't work for people. You work with people. This is a difference. You start working with people.
Yeah.
But conscientize, what we basically mean is encouraging critical thinking. This is what conscientization is. It's a person with who's always constantly questioning everything.
Everything.
That is conscientization.
The why of doing things.
That's it. And the minute you start questioning everything, you begin to see yourself more and more as self-reliant, as self-defined.
Yeah.
And that's when you said conscientize. So each one in our campuses had to go through the process of conscientizing the students.
Wow.
That's what he did, right? Now, and then the organization he formed, the first one was known as SESO, which is the South African Students Organization.
Yeah.
And from then, a lot of the black consciousness ideas started flowering. But what's very important to realize at that period, to understand Steve really and where we came from, is to understand what was our life like prior to this.
Okay.
You know, we lived under apartheid.
Yes.
The ANC was banned. The PAC was banned. Any movement that was anti-apartheid, they had banning orders or they put on Robben Island. And what the apartheid government did, they created what we call a culture of fear. You know, people used to say, don't let your right and know
what your left
because somebody's going to be an informer. We believe there was informers all over.
Yeah.
That were taking notes of guys.
Yeah.
That guy's a radical and giving to the security police. But we were totally controlled by fear. Young people forgot who Mandela was. They forgot the liberation struggle. We all were living like slaves. This was the conditions black consciousness came out of.
Okay.
Now we were looking around, so suddenly Steve was saying, what are we doing? We are gradually breaking the culture of fear.
Yeah.
And we're making people aware, guys, we can continue with our struggle.
Yeah.
We can continue with the resistance. But we have to break the fear.
Yeah.
And that's when Steve spoke about our task is primarily psychological liberation and physical liberation. But you can only be physically liberated if you are psychologically free.
For sure.
And that was now really the starting point.
Okay.
That started getting all of us involved in our campuses. And then we started doing projects, etc., you know, to get our message going through our black consciousness. But the thing is, suddenly an awareness started taking place in communities. So people started speaking, hey, look at these guys. They're standing up against the government.
Yeah.
Oh, black power guys.
Yeah.
You know, the word was spreading.
But did you at that time, because of all of this was happening in college, did you at that time planning to move it to the communities, to townships, or was it something that just rolled out and it went ahead?
It came out initially as a student movement. The ideal was ultimately to get towards communities and that.
Okay.
But then the question was, how do you get to communities and that when you are still basically a student movement?
Yeah. So
there was no political movement within the black consciousness group.
Okay.
It was only a student movement.
All right.
That was the first thing at that time. But gradually what started happening, many of us started graduating from campuses. So we were out of campus. Now what do we do? Because at campus we used to meet in SESO, we used to have our conferences, we were developing more ideas. But many of us graduated, what do we do? And that's when the idea came on starting a political movement, which was known as BPC, Black People's Convention.
Oh.
And this was to catch us within black communities as a liberation movement.
Okay.
And this is where we actually adopted initially. We know that the PAC had this as a symbol.
Yeah.
The ANC had that.
Okay.
And we adopted the fist.
The fist, the clinch.
Now, the reason was one thing. The fist was used in solidarity with all liberation movements throughout the world.
Okay.
The other one was, we said, we should see ourselves as open fingers.
Yeah.
And we said, if we stand like this, it's very easy to break our fingers.
Yeah.
To break us.
Yeah.
But the moment you got your first clench, nobody can break you.
Yes.
You are solid. So that's where we are. And this solidness was black consciousness. The moment we are united, nobody can break us.
Okay. Now I know what the
this is
the fist means.
We took the first in.
Yeah.
The moment and this was the thing we really had to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we must remember while all of this was happening, fear was still around.
Okay.
But people started hearing about the movement, and then I think it changed everything. Where we really made all the newspapers was, I think, in 1974.
Okay.
As a Black People's Convention, and at that time, one of the leaders was a guy called Seth Cooper. And they decided to hold a rally in Durban at a place called Curry's Fountain.
Okay.
And this rally was known as a Viva Frelimo rally.
Oh.
This is where Frelimo just got liberation.
Yeah.
And we all were excited. Guys, Frelimo. The Portuguese are being kicked out of Mozambique. It's Frelimo. That's a liberation movement.
Yes, yes.
So Seth said, we'll organize a rally in Durban. And they call it the Viva Frelimo rally to celebrate the freedom and the liberation of Mozambique.
Yes.
And that's when the system, apartheid government, banned it. They said, you won't go ahead, we're banning this rally. And our guys stood up and they said, stuff you. You're not going to ban us, we're going to go ahead with the rally.
Okay.
The rally just went in, and then the arrests started coming. They were arresting over, 100 and some out of us got detained.
Yeah.
Under what was known as the terrorism act. Although I wasn't part of the rally, I was here in what was known as the Transvaal. But all of us that
they just tracked you down and
a whole lot of us just got in.
Yeah.
We got detained under what was known as Section 6 of the Terrorism Act.
Okay.
Where you put in solitary confinement, where they can torture you from here to Kingdom Come. And we all were being interrogated by the security police at that time. Not long after interrogation and then, we were suddenly brought to the commandant's office. There were 13 of us. And we were regarded as a so-called leadership of the Black Consciousness movement at that time. And we were charged under the Terrorism Act. Now, the main accused then was a chap called Seth Cooper. He was accused number 1. There was a guy called Muntu Meaza.
Okay.
There was, I think, accused number 2. There was a guy called Strini Moodley.
Okay.
There was a guy called Moshiwa Lakota, Terry Lakota.
Yeah.
He became a sellout on the island when he joined the ANC.
Okay.
But he was one of us. There was Nefela Hardware. There was Sydney. There's a lot of there were a lot of the 13 of us. And we were now in court. But we said we were going to do something else in court. Many of us had a background of theatre. Like I was running a thing called People's Experimental Theatre.
Yeah.
Resistance theatre.
Yeah.
And what we said, we're going to perform in court. We're going to defy the system. Everybody is scared. So we take them to a place called Palace of Justice or something like that. In Pretoria. Now, before they took us to court, we went ourselves, right? So now we know they're going to take us to court to be officially charged. And you know, he had we used to call this police then the Kwela.
Yeah.
They put us into the Kwela to go to court. But what they did, they had 2 police cars in front with sirens, so they can go through stop street non-stop taking us to court. But by doing it, people started looking, hey, who are these guys? And we started clenching our fists out of the police van.
Yeah.
We started singing freedom songs, which was never heard. People said, hey, these guys are defying the police here. They're stamping their feet in the prison van and singing all their freedom songs, etc. We get into court. Now we know everybody's watching this.
Yeah.
Who are these young guys that are totally defying the system? And in court, the same thing was happening. We turned our backs to the judges and we really created it. But this is what we call real theatre.
Yeah.
So people are aware, this is happening. But at the same time, there is a group from Soweto observing all of this. Now, this group was inspired by Biko as well.
Yes.
It was a group known as SASM, I think, South African Scholar Movement.
Okay.
And this group was made up of people like Tsetse Mashinini, Khotso, Mate Deseko.
Yeah.
They were the young guys,
yes,
the scholars.
Yes.
Because we had a student movement, they formed the scholar movement.
Oh.
And very black consciousness, or they've been influenced by black consciousness.
Yeah.
So you have the scholars and you have the students. Now all of this has been inspired by Steve.
Okay.
So these kids are listening, they say, hey, look at these guys, they
define the authority.
These are the young guys from Soweto.
Yeah.
But the questions are going, who are these guys? Look how they're defying everyone. So you got SASM there, you got our student body, and the whole country is looking at it. Then at the same time, remember Steve Biko was banned at that time. So he couldn't quote anything of him. Nothing, whatever he said couldn't be published. It was illegal to publish, right?
Okay.
In the trial, there was a guy called, just before we went to court, 8 of the black consciousness leaders were banned. Like Strini Moodley, Vokwe Mafuna, Bani Patiana, Steve Biko, Harry Nengukulu. It's quite of the 8 of the main leaders were banned.
Okay.
So here already guys are saying, nobody knows what Steve is talking about because he's banned.
Yeah.
Guys said, no, there's court case. We're going to make it an avenue for everybody to know what we're all about.
Yeah.
So our guys get into a brainwave. They said, let's call Steve as a defense witness.
Oh. Okay.
Our lawyers bring him as a defense witness.
Yeah.
Now by bringing Steve as a defense witness, what are we doing? The whole country is beginning to hear what he's been talking about.
Yes.
Which they didn't know about him, which you couldn't read anything about him.
Yeah.
He starts speaking. All his ideas are going to come out in court.
Yes.
So we use the court as a platform to express Biko's values.
Yeah.
And at the same time, who's listening to everything? The young activists in Soweto.
We'll just take a bit of a break before I bring more questions that we might be having. Thank you very much.